So guys, as promised, today I'm discussing with you one of the olfactory groups categories of leather fragrances. But turns out I haven't done every single one of them, and for some reason I thought I covered them. But we are missing floral group or floral olfactory group, and also the woody olfactory groups as well. But we're going to do all that later on, but today we're going to cover leather. If you want to find out about leather and this particular olfactory group and the fragrances that fall under it, and also how they started and all that good stuff, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. That's right, today we're talking about leather, the olfactory group of leather fragrances. So far we've done aromatic, Chypre, citrus. We haven't done the floral, which I thought we did, but we didn't. We're doing the leather today. We've done oriental fragrances, the oriental olfactory group, and then we're going to also work on woody fragrances. But before we do talk about the leather olfactory group, if this is your first time tuning into this channel and you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So yes, leather fragrances are some of my favorite fragrances, but they're not like way up there. There are other genres that I prefer, and some leather fragrances I like more than others, but the ones we're going to talk about today, 10 of them, are some of my favorite fragrances in the leather olfactory groups category. But you know, sometimes I prefer some over the others, but you know, it's always nice to have some of these because they tend to go a little animalic, or they do this or do that. And I'm going to tell you which I prefer over the others. But before we get to that, I want to tell you that we are going to work on the floral olfactory group soon, and also the woody. But for me, leather fragrances, always thought you get a leather smell, but from what I've read, you can't really create a note of leather. You can't extract the smell from leather, so it has to be done with other notes. But before I tell you how it's done, there are stories that I've been hearing or I've heard on my travels to various perfume places, and I was visiting some perfumeries in Grasse, France, probably towards the earlier part of the 2010s, and there I heard the story about how Catherine De Medici used to travel from Italy to France, where Grasse used to be known for tanneries, leather tanneries, and she used to get these leather gloves there. And from what I heard in this story is that those leather gloves, I guess she hid poison in these gloves. I don't know how true this story is, but the leather gloves smelled so bad that she'd tell her people to get something to perfume these leather gloves, so that when she was going to poison somebody, I don't know how true this poisoning story is, but apparently because she was poisoning people or her enemies, and people could smell her coming because of these very stinky gloves, they decided to create some scents to cover up the smell, the really bad smell of the leather. And so that's how the perfume industry was born in Grasse, and that's how that particular thing happened with that. Again, I don't know how true this is, but this is what I've heard. And Grasse in France, in the south of France, near Nice, just north of Nice, just above Nice is what I should say, is known for perfumes, but it used to be known for tanneries for leather. But as far as the smell goes, I'm going to read something that I've written down here. And according to the Perfumes, the guide, leather notes in perfume come from bitter-smelling isoquinolines or smoky-smelling rectified birch tar to replicate the smell of the tanning chemicals used to prepare leather. Leather is tanned hides, but not only of cattle, but of many other animals. And according to my research, they do use birch tar for leather, or to create it, but I think it's in combination with also castoreum, the animalic note, which smells very leathery. So these are kind of like combined, and I guess they also take various synthetic chemicals and things like that, and other notes as well, to create a leather accord. So from what I've researched, leather is definitely not a note. It has to be an accord created by different notes. And that's what I've come to learn with my research. And it's very, very interesting about the whole, how Grasse used to be known for tanneries, and now it's become known for perfumes, and also the fact that this whole Catherine Medici and her gloves and all that kind of stuff. But Whereas they're trying to hide the smell of the gloves and how stinky they are, now they're creating an accord to make it smell like sometimes the stinkiness of some of the very smelly leather smells that they used to exist back in the days of the leather tanneries. Anyway, so today I'm going to talk to you about 10 various leather fragrances. Some brands you know are very familiar with, some are probably a little more obscure, but I tried to make this list a list of fragrances that most you would probably are familiar with, and some of them I'm definitely ones I've discussed on the channel and have reviewed, and I'll tell you if I've reviewed it, and if you're curious to learn more about it, you can always go and check it out. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start first with a Chanel fragrance called Cuir de RUSSIE, this one right here, and for some reason there are multiple fragrances out in the world utilizing either Cuir de RUSSIE or Russian leather. So there's many of them. And I decided to go with the Chanel because Chanel is very popular. And this is a very popular fragrance. I feel like out of the less exclusive, this is probably like third or fourth popular. At least to me, that's how I picture the popularity of the different fragrances. But for me, I would categorize this as a very smoky floral leather fragrance. So you've gotten the notes of leather, which I'm assuming they're using different different notes to make that leathery accord, because it does smell very leathery. And there's also birchwood here, according to the notes, but I believe that birchwood note is in here to combine with other notes to create this leather accord. There's also Ylang, which is the floral part of this fragrance. It's pretty intense, the Ylang note. There are resins, so there's a resinous quality. There's jasmine, there's tobacco. For me, this one smells like a very charred, smoky, and buttery leather. So if you like that idea, you might like it. But if you don't like smoky fragrances, you might not like this, because it is very, very smoky. But to me, it doesn't smell like smoke in the air. It's almost like smoke after it's perishing. Like it's like, let's say, for example, something is on fire and it's already burned off, so the smoke is not up in the air, but actually it's just almost fading away, like the smoke is kind of like disappearing. That's the kind of smoke it smells like. So it doesn't smell like incense smoke, very smoky. It's almost like to the end of the life of the smoke is what it smells like. But it's very, very buttery, that leather, almost like a suede / leather. So it's like suede leather to me is very buttery and soft. Because I've worked with leather. My uncle used to, well, still, he's a shoe designer, and so he used to have lots of different leather pieces of leather laying around, and I used to smell that stuff, and you could smell that smoky kind of animalic smell of leathery. But then when it was suede, it was nice and soft and buttery, and I feel like this is definitely like a not only leather but also the suede leather. Anyway, Cuir de RUSSIE is very popular. Sometimes I hear this as a bit on the feminine side. I could see that. The other thing I want to mention is it definitely has the Chanel DNA. When you put your nose to it, it has that Chanel smell in there. Chanel smell? That sounds funny, but it's a great fragrance. It is at the very bottom of my bottle, as you can see, so I like this one a lot. So that's the Chanel Cuir de RUSSIE. Next, go into the house of MAITRE Perfume at Gantier. I've spoken a lot about this house, and I also have a full review of this fragrance on the channel. I don't have a full review of this, but I do have a top 20 Chanel fragrances video. You can find out about that one. But here, if you guys are fans of Creed's Royal English Leather, which is a vaulted fragrance, this comes very close to it to me. I actually was given a decant of Royal English Leather, and I have like probably 20 mils of it left, and I cherish it very, very safely, but this comes really, really close to it. In fact, there's one other fragrance kind of after this that also kind of hints at that a little bit, but this one actually I feel like it's a lot more Creed-like versus the other. But this is Cuir FETICHE from MAITRE Perfume at Gantier, and it's a floral powdery leather to me, and it's got leather, iris, jasmine, ylang, and ambery. So it has very ambery touches, but the leather with the iris, it's very, very powdery. So I feel like the iris is the floral touch, the jasmine is the floral touch, the ylang is the floral touch here. But it is, once again, a very buttery leather. It's very smooth and soft, not very animalic to me. I don't get much animalic touches, and definitely nothing like Cuir de RUSSIE, whereas this one is smoked, charred leather. You can almost smell the tanneries, like where all the the stuff is being done to the animals to create the leather, you know, the skinning and everything like that. That kind of smells there. This one doesn't have any of that smoke, so it's a lot more elegant to me. I don't find this one to be elegant. It just seems a bit, or smells a bit rough, just because of that smokiness. It also goes a little animalic. Well, not necessarily a little animalic. It definitely goes animalic. But here, it's very, very elegant and soft, and just very like going out at night to like a ball or something. It just comes off very like expensive. Does that word make sense to you? Like a fragrance smelling expensive, luxurious, and things like that. Those are the kind of things that come to mind with this one. It's very, very elegant, but it is definitely a very buttery leather, very, very floral touches, very powdery with the ambery touches. So that's Cuir Fetiche. It's a floral powdery fragrance, and that's from the house of MAITRE Parfumé at Gantier. Now this next one is from the house of Parfums de Nicolai, and this is Baikal Leather Intense. This is a fragrance they launched late last year, and here it's a very, very interesting fragrance. The story is that there's this forest of birch trees somewhere in Russia, I believe, called Baikal. I don't really know the exact story, but this is something I remember. And there, they're using the birchwood from there. But I don't find this one smoky, and I feel like birchwood adds a smoky layer. When you're smelling it out of the bottle, it's definitely not smoky at all. On me, it does get smokier as I'm wearing it. For this one, it's more of like a woody floral combination, whereas this one was the floral powdery leather, and this one was the smoky floral leather. But here we've got the woody floral leather fragrance, so it does have woody touches. In the end, it's leather, iris, violet, yuzu, saffron, birchwood, and gaiac. So it has lots of different woods. I would classify this also as a powdery because it does have powdery touches, and I would classify it not smoky. It's not very smoky. Even though the birchwood does get smoky, it doesn't get full-on in-your-face smoky like this one. Like this is ultra smoky, and mostly you're experiencing smoky touches, whereas here it does have those buttery elements as well. The gaiac wood in here is very soft and creamy, and along with the other notes, it does have a very buttery effect. The smokiness does come in, but very, very little from the birchwood. But in the end, this is also like a very, very elegant, not necessarily rough, like this one. This one's rough. I keep coming back to this one because it's the standout so far out of the three I've reviewed. But this is very elegant and wonderful, and I think it's a great, great, unique interpretation of leather. So this is Parfums de Nicolai Baikal Leather Intense. So this next one is from the house of Knize, and this is Knize 10 Golden Edition. So this one and this one kind of sort of similar. I find this one a little more elegant. I find this one to be a little more intense and a little more rough. This also reminds me of Dior's discontinued or now limited release, Cuir. I don't know if you guys have worn that fragrance or not, but that's what this reminds me of. But this has been around forever, and the Cuir had come out much after this came out, much after, and then it was shelved and moved to only a Paris boutique exclusive. But this is wonderful. This one has leather, carnation, castoreum, jasmine, cedar, amber, oak moss. But once again, slightly animalic, very buttery, very soft and ambery, and it smells just like a wonderful leather. I don't want to say the word factory, but like as I was bringing up my uncle's shoe business, he was designing shoes, and when you go to his place, this was when I was very young, like I was like 10, 11, 9, you'd see like stacks of leather, and there is a smell there. That smell is basically transferred to this smell of the perfume. Although this has lots of ambery touches, so that it's like sweetened up with the smell that I was telling you about the leather, but in the end it's beautiful. And this one actually is called the Golden Edition. The regular one is just Knize 10. I find them to be somewhat similar. Just this one is just more ambery to me because it's called the Golden Edition, and I feel like the amber notes are amped up. And here it's an Austrian or German, I think it's an Austrian brand, and as you can see right there, it says toilet water right there. It's not toilet water, but you know, it's just like, you know, fragrance for in the bathroom. You would put it on in the near the toilet. Anyway, Knize 10 Golden Edition. Awesome, awesome release. So this next one is from the house of Olfactive Studio, and this is Chambre Noire, this one right here. So this is another leather fragrance. Once again, we're going to different styles of leather fragrances, whereas we had woody floral with oh, did I tell you what this one? This one was a woody floral. And this one has leather, carnation, castoreum, jasmine, cedar, amber, oak moss. Yeah, I did read that. But that one's considered a woody floral. And then the Nicolai was a woody floral as well. And then the MAITRE Parfumé Gantier is a floral powdery. And then the Chanel Cuir de RUSSIE is the smoky floral. And here we've got smoky spicy. So twist again. Now we've got some spicy elements coming in, but also I feel like this one has fruity elements as well. So this one has notes of leather, plum, incense, sandalwood, patchouli, violet. This one actually smells a little stark when you're smelling it out of the bottle, but it opens up. Like I feel like that plum just develops and just sweetens up everything and becomes really, really wonderfully sexy. Again, it's a very, very unique take on a leather fragrance. Very smoky, very spicy, lots of spices and lots of smoke notes. But there are some patchouli notes thrown in and some, you know, fruity touches of the plum. And again, it's a classic fragrance. It's a very, very popular. I feel like this is probably the most popular from Olfactive Studio fragrance. This is my second bottle, and I love wearing it, and I just love that plum that just develops and opens up on me. But when you're smelling it out of the bottle, there's not much plum there at all. It's very dark and stark, as I was saying. So this is a smoky spicy fragrance. This is a smoky spicy leather fragrance from the house of Olfactive Studio, and that is Chambre Noire. Alright, so the next two fragrances are created by the same perfumer, and this one I have actually done a full review of. This is Terrible Teddy from the house of PENHALIGON'S, one of my favorite houses, and this is considered a smoky balsamic leather. So we've got leather, incense, and ambroxan in the notes, but this one is very, very smoky and very, very resinous. Also lots of ambroxan, so it's very ambery, and I feel like the balsamic ambroxan kind of go hand in hand with the notes here. It's just acts that way, but it's a big bad boy kind of a leather, and very, very smoky and very, very I guess balsamic is the right word to use because it's very, very ambery experience. But there are some sweet undertones there because there's also some spicy undertones of black pepperiness coming in. But in the end, it's a very big fragrance, just like the animal is interpreted here. It's a very rough and rugged animal, and it's wonderful the way it smells. And I love the ambroxan in here because it's aggressive, and it's kind of reminds me of the aggressiveness of Dior Sauvage. I feel like that's a very, very aggressive and harsh fragrance with that intense amount of ambroxan, and you have it here along with the leather and of course the incense, and throw in the spiciness of some black pepper and some slight sweet resinous and balsamic touches in here as well. Anyway, this is wonderful. It's a perfume created by Quentin Biche, a perfumer. So this is Terrible Teddy from the house of PENHALIGON'S, and this next one is from the house of RUBEUS MILANO, and this one is BLEU, and this is also created by Quentin Biche. And this one, I am not wearing anything, and this is a fairly new fragrance. I'm going to spray some on so I can give you my full explanation of this fragrance, because it's fairly new and I wanted to include both of these, especially since that both of these are created by the same perfumer and they both came out about the same time, and both of them are leathers, obviously. But this one is actually, the BLEU from RUBEUS MILANO is considered a floral powdery leather fragrance, and basically you have leather, iris, flowers, citrus, woody notes, powdery notes. Now they're nothing alike. I mean, there's some slightly smoky touches coming in, reminding me of the PENHALIGON'S, but they're completely different because there's no floral notes in the PENHALIGON'S, and this one has a very florally touches, and the iris is pretty prominent, and that's why we got the powdery touches. The leather is slightly animalic, but it's like it's kind of reminding me of the buttery smokiness of the Chanel Coeur de Russie, but they're not the same fragrance at all. They're completely different fragrances because this one has lots of citruses I'm picking up, and with the Chanel I'm not picking up much citruses. This one also can be categorized as a floral woody leather fragrance, but I feel like it's ultra powdery, and I categorized it as a powdery or a floral powdery leather. But this one's wonderful. I've worn it a couple times. I'm still learning it, and on me, with my body chemistry, it's very, very unique. It doesn't smell like, I mean, it hints at this a little bit, but they're not identical at all. I feel like the same perfumer's touch is in there, obviously, because they're the same person that created it, but in the end it's a very, very unique fragrance. I love this one, and I love the bottle too. It's beautiful, as you can see right here. So this is a house out of Milan. It's called RUBEUS Milano, and this is BLEU. I think they only have 3 fragrances. Anyway, that's that one. We're going to talk about this one. This is very, very popular. I think the next 3 are going to be really popular fragrances, and this is African Leather from the House of Memo Paris, and this one's considered a woody, spicy leather. Obviously it's very woody and very spicy, and this is popular because of the cardamom, and I feel like the cardamom is just top notch. In fact, I feel like the cardamom is a little more intense here than the leather, but it is very leathery, and in fact this dries down to more leather. I feel like all the Memo Paris fragrances in the leathers, they all start out with something and then they dry down to be leathers, and here it starts off very spicy with lots of cardamom. There's also leather, there's saffron, there's some cumin, vetiver, patchouli. It's so good, guys. This is one of the best leather fragrances out there. I love wearing it because I think I love the spices. Even though it's a woody spicy, the spices are very, very warm, and I feel like it's a warm, spicy experience. And the leather is slightly smoky as well. So in the end, probably this is the most popular leather from Memo Paris, and I love the way it smells. It's very, very unique, and I love spices, and I love the leather together. So this one is a winner. I mean, these are all great leather fragrances here, and just giving you my opinions on all of them. If you're ever interested in sampling these, you'll just have to go get samples or sample them in the store to see which one you like better. But this is Memo Paris, and it's African leather. Again, this is considered a woody, spicy leather fragrance. The RUBEUS Milano, once again, is a floral powdery leather. So the next one is a less expensive leather fragrance, and this is Cuir by Molinard. The suggested retail price is $65, and this is a 75 ml bottle, so it is slightly smaller than 100 ml. Here we have a woody, spicy leather fragrance, and we've got leather, saffron, oud, amber, nutmeg, musk, black pepper, and lavender. This one, to me, I feel like is very aromatic because that lavender kind of is amped up, and there's also something very fruity in there, and I can't figure out what's causing that fruitiness. But there's a fruity touch in there, and there's nothing listed as a fruit. But in the end, it's a very animalic. To me, it acts a very animalic, and I feel like the oud, perhaps, with the leather, kind of comes off animalic. But for the price you pay for this, it's solid. It's definitely a solid leather fragrance. And if you guys like leather, or you are wanting to dabble in leather and you want to start inexpensive, I feel like Cuir is probably the one to try. If you want to keep your budget low or down. Anyway, this is Cuir from the House of Molinard. I highly recommend this house. Fragrances are awesome. I love it. And Molinard's Cuir is considered a woody, spicy. And I'm going to wrap up this list with a very popular Tom Ford fragrance. It's not Tuscan leather, but it is ombre leather right here. The second release of this fragrance. Ombre leather I find to be a very woody floral leather fragrance. You've got leather, jasmine, amber, oak moss, cardamom, patchouli. I love it. In fact, I feel like even though it's considered slightly animalic, I feel like this is probably very easy for me to wear. I love this one. I love the way it smells on me. For me, this one reminds me a little bit of cloth, like fabric. Whereas my uncle was the shoe designer and shoemaker, my parents were the clothing designers, and they used to have racks and racks of cloth material to put, design clothing. And that stuff had a smell, and I feel like this is a very cloth-like leather fragrance. There's some fruity touches in here, but they're very, very, very minute, like very minute. But in the end, I love the way this smells. It's like a combination of leather and cloth material together, and I like that about it. I can almost like visualize somebody wearing brand new clothes with a brand new leather jacket and getting into a leather car interior which is brand new. That's kind of what this reminds me of, and it's a great smell. I love the way that smells. And the cloth or the fabric of the pants and the clothes and the leather jacket and the leather interior, phenomenal smell. Anyway, Ombre Leather from Tom Ford, awesome leather fragrance. In fact, all of these are awesome leather fragrances, and this is a genre of fragrances that I love. As I said, some of my favorite fragrances, not up there at the very top, but I do enjoy leather fragrances, and I love it when there's a very, very unique leather smell that, you know, comes around and I can't stop smelling it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on leather fragrances and the olfactory group of leather fragrances. Don't worry, I will do the floral fragrances olfactory group and the woody fragrances olfactory group very soon, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And if you have any questions or comments today about this video or any of the fragrances discussed, please do put it down. Have you tried these fragrances? Do you like them? Do you enjoy leather fragrances? And if you have a favorite that I haven't ever spoken about or didn't speak about today, please put a comment down and let me know what it is so I can check it out for a future video. Other than that, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please do like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.